saving youth and protecting youth.
So we're going. We're going. Okay. Welcome everybody to the final meeting of the Early Learning Council Ad Hoc Committee. We'll talk about the Child Care Portal. We appreciate all of you being here, and we appreciate those of you who are on the phone as well, joining us. So let's go around the table and introduce ourselves and what organization we're representing, and then we'll go to those on the phone as well. I'm Sue Miller, and I'm chairing the Early Learning Council and therefore chairing this committee.
Adam Bergen. I'm an investigative unit manager with the Department of Human Services Otis office.
Jerry Moore, Chief of Police in Salem.
Martha Brooks, State Director, Fight Crime Investing Kids.
Angela Rodriguez, Quality Assurance Manager for the OCC and ELD.
Jay Messenger, Legal Enforcement Director for the Office of Child Care.
Veronica Shaw, and I have a child and home license. Shannon Anaheim, Program Director of Child Care Resource and Program of Community Action. My name is Amy Joyce. I'm the Interim OCC Director.
And hi, I'm Dawn Taylor, and I'm here because I wanted to be here for the last meeting, but I have transitioned to a new role within the Early Learning Division, and so I'm now the Director of Organizational Development for the division. So I'm definitely helping in all ways that I can. Awesome.
I'm Stephanie Fortner. I'm a parent of a 2-year-old at a daycare facility center in Clackamas County.
Bobby Weber, Oregon State University. And Heidi McGowan, a consultant, and joyfully facilitating our work together to the end zone.
The end zone, that's today. All right. Oh.
And I snuck in next to you, yes. Kevin Barden, Washington County DA.
Thanks for being here.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to others.
Hi, my name's Kim Moore. I'm the State Director of
Oh, yeah. Great. Welcome. Thank you, Kristen. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Great tech support. We appreciate you a lot. And now, those on the phone, will you introduce yourself?
Dina Lowry, Child Safety Program.
Reagan Gray with Family Forward.
Eva Ripito, Apathy, and I'm on my way.
Eva. Oh, Eva. Okay, Eva.
Thank you. John.
And this is State Representative John Lively.
Awesome. Thank you, Representative Lively, for joining us today. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And Renee is walking in. Hi. Welcome. Renee is a wonderful provider, and Eva Ripito is on her way as well, and she will attest to Renee because that's where her kids go. Yes, it's all a great circle of families. All right, so we have a very exciting agenda today, as you all know, where we are going to finalize our recommendations that we want to send on to the Early Learning Council. So this represents the work we've done for the last 6 months, I think it's been about. And I really appreciate the thought and the candor that everybody has brought to this table. And we need to finish out our work today with that same perspective, I believe. Heidi will facilitate getting us through the recommendations that have been sent out to us. And I also, at the outset, want to thank Angela and Jay for sort of teeing up the conversations for us today. I think you've just done a great job of making this doable. So thank you both very much. Heidi, I'll turn it over to you.
So our work today is, our charge today is to revisit, there were 3 areas that we requested the Early Learning Division staff to come back with a little bit more information. So our charge today is to review and revisit that information and come to agreement with this additional information, and then send forward collectively and holistically your set of recommendations to the Early Learning Council. That's our charge today. And just want to highlight, maybe just let's review the framework and the structure of what's in front of you. So if you take a look at page 2, of course, we always have in each of our meetings our committee charge at the top. And how you'll see this framed up in front of you is you have in front of you each month that we've met and the key questions that we ask of you to address under each month. And under each question, what's in front of you is very succinctly the staff recommendation that came to you, your discussion and rationale very succinctly reported here, then your committee recommendation that you agreed to during that conversation. And then lastly, some notes about technology considerations, just from the Office of Child Care perspective. What are some of the technology considerations that attend to the recommendation that you put forward here? There are a couple areas that are highlighted, number 2, number 7 and 8, and number 9. And those were the areas where you requested staff to bring back some additional information. And so we're going to spend a little time on those 3 today, coming to agreement on what to send forward. And then at the end of our time together, very briefly, we will review all of these collectively together and identify if there are any further considerations that you would like to move forward with these recommendations to the Early Learning Council, and have one final vote, one final 5-by-5 vote, and celebrate. And Angela said we should have brought poppers and sparkling cider, and so we'll imagine that kind of celebration. Okay, any questions? And how does that sit with you for our time together today? Okay, good. All right, so let's go ahead and start with number 2. If you'll turn to page 3, you'll see some highlighted, updated staff recommendation intake. Would you mind framing up for us what we're going to, what's here? Refresh our memory.
Sure. Okay, this discussion is about the appearance of unable to substantiate findings on the portal. So as a part of my framing up, I'll sort of have 3 areas. First, I'll just give a brief reminder to everyone how these unable to substantiate findings currently show up on the portal. Then I'll review sort of the core sort of arguments that were put forth at the and discussion was put forth back at the June 2019 meeting, which is where we discussed this issue. And then finally, I'll close with my staff recommendation. Also, as a part of this, I'll discuss, we went to the Federal Office of Child Care in response to a question we had in June 2019, and I'll talk briefly about that. So on our portal, currently unable to substantiate findings show up. And just as a reminder, we have 3 categories of findings: valid findings, invalid findings, and unable to substantiate. And currently, if you look at an unable, and this, we had documents that we provided in the June meeting, but I'll just quickly summarize my points here. You'll see a complaint, and you'll see a finding unable to substantiate, and then you'll have an allegation description. For example, the one we gave you with a child's diapers are not being changed as needed. Then the rule will be provided, or the reference to the ORR and the Oregon Administrative Rules, and then the observations by the investigator that went out. So those are currently showing up on our portal, unable to substantiate findings for 2 years. In June 2019, when we discussed this, the staff recommended that unable to substantiate findings be removed from the portal. And so we discussed this, and the committee did not reach agreement on that staff recommendation. And so what I'll present now is the rationales offered by both positions, as well as talked about the Federal Office of Child Care, what we learned from them in relation to one point. So the rationales offered for removing unable to substantiate findings from the portal included that parents are confused by the findings, that providers don't like having something displayed on the portal that isn't proven, that unable to substantiate findings can be provided to parents by alternative means, such as through a telephone inquiry to OCC or by putting the data someplace else in summary form, in form of trends on the website. Another rationale thought for removing the unable to substantiate findings was that because complaint visits are listed on the portal as required by the federal government, even if unable to substantiate findings were not shown on the portal, the licensing history would still show the complaint visit. Now, we weren't sure about that, and we went back to, Dawn, I believe, went back to the Federal Office of Child Care, and we asked them about that. And what we learned is the Federal Office of Child Care, who leads the federal regulations in these areas, clarified that states have the discretion as to whether or not to show a complaint visit occurred if there are no valid findings, meaning we don't have to put a complaint visit on the portal if, or in a public portal if there are no valid findings. So if there are no valid findings, it doesn't have to show up on the portal. So that was a clarification. We weren't sure at that meeting whether or not we still have to put the visit occurred and then put nothing there, but we learned that that's not the case per the Federal Office of Child Care. So those were the rationales for removing unable to substantiate findings from the portal that the committee discussed and brought forward in the group discussion. The rationales offered for keeping unable to substantiate findings on the portal that were discussed include that parents want access to everything that is available, and the more information, the better. The other rationale that was captured was a large number of unable to substantiate against the provider might trigger a where there's smoke, there's fire evaluation by parents. So those were the reasons, rationales offered for keeping them on the portal. Now, given that, so really the two options that were presented at that meeting were keep it all on the portal or take it off the portal. As a result, just to point out, as a result of this advice from the Office of Child Care, we actually have a third option now, meaning to keep it all on the portal is to put that a complaint visit occurred and the particulars of the investigation. For example, that diapering example I gave you. The take it all off in the portal is self-explanatory. The middle ground is one could put that a complaint visit occurred and then not put the allegations. Some other states put, for example, language to the effect of no valid findings occurred. So a parent could see there was a complaint visit and it occurred, but there were no valid findings. So just putting that out there as another option that didn't exist based on our knowledge at the last meeting, but now is present. So understanding that this is a tough choice, the staff recommendation, we took all that information and we are still thinking that the portal should not display a complaint visit that occurred if the allegations were found unable to substantiate. And then one of the things that would also trigger is in some situations there's a complaint with multiple allegations. Some of those allegations could be found valid, invalid, and some unable to substantiate. In the instance, if we said we were going to pull unable to substantiate findings off the portal, say there were 3 allegations, one was found to be valid, that would still show up in the portal with the complaint for that particular visit. But the 2 that were found unable to substantiate would not show up. And that's my setup.
Questions for Jay? For
Well,
clarification?
will you just explain why is the staff recommending that it come off?
We agreed with the reasoning put forth on the unfairness of the provider, potential confusion. It's a close call. It's a close call, and it's the committee's decision, of course. But these points that I put out, that's why.
That's why. Okay.
Any questions? Oops, sorry.
Yeah, Bobby and then Kevin.
Oh, you said there were 3 options, and I just didn't get them all.
Sure.
One is put everything on. 2, put on the complaint page that an investigation happened and there were no valid findings. Put on the complaint page an investigation happened and it was unable to substantiate. Is that, I just didn't get 3.
Sure. There are really 2 pieces of data we're looking at. Did a visit occur, and what are the in an unable to substantiate scenario? There's 2 basic pieces of data. Did a visit occur, and what are the allegations? And so you can have those in 2 different ways. You can put on both the visit and the allegations. You can put on nothing, or you could put on the visit occurred but not put on the allegations. So those are the 3 options. So in the situation where the visit occurred but you don't put on the allegations, for example, that allegation I listed that the child wasn't changed in diapering, you just say no valid findings occurred. Some states put that. You put some language saying complaint visit happened, no valid findings.
Kevin?
So my question is, if in scenario 2 or scenario 3, where you either don't put anything on there or you kind of do the halfway that you proposed, would it be apparent to the person viewing the portal that there's missing information? In other words, would they be told, hey, this does not include unable to substantiate findings?
So in the situation where neither the visit nor the allegations were put forth, the only thing that would be some, this is what's on the portal, general sort of understanding.
Yeah.
For the situation where there's mixed, you'd still see that a complaint of visit occurred. You'd say that there were no valid findings, therefore there were some findings, but not valid findings.
I guess my only comment to that would be, if the decision is made to go in the direction of not including either all the information or not including some of the information, my suggestion would be that it's clear to the viewer what's not there. And I think if you just say, well, here's what's here, they're not going to know what's missing. Like, the normal person doesn't know, unable to substantiate doesn't mean anything to regular people.
So we're going to get into Swanberg discussion or pair share, discuss your opinion. So
and then report back.
If we can come back, because I think we're going to immediately start getting our suggestions and recommendations. If we can just really capture your clarifications needed right now, we're going to offer up those suggestions and opinions. Does that feel okay to you all? To move us forward? Not necessarily? Okay, great. I can feel it coming. Any other questions or clarification from what Jay presented to you? All right. I didn't mean to quiet any questions. No clarification.
What about folks on the phone?
Okay, folks on the phone. Thank you, Angela. Folks on the phone, do you have any questions or clarification from what Jay's presented to you? So what I'd like to invite us to do now is to actually turn to a partner. Let's do a work in pairs today, so we really can capture your dialogue and your thinking. And the staff who are not part of the committee, or who are not on the committee, who, just to clarify who that is, Jay and Angela. Okay. So, and Dawn, would you mind facilitating the folks on the webinar? Yeah. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and break into pairs. Naturally, trying to think here, you two are right next to each other. You two are here, maybe Eva and Sue, and then Stephanie, Renee, and Shannon. You two are there. Renee, would you like to join Shannon and Veronica? Did that break us up about, I think, approximately in pairs? So what are we doing? Yes, what are you doing? Thank you. Share your reflections with each other about your reactions and reflections on the new information that's come forward. And if you have any suggestions or changes that you would like considered, to bring those forward. Does that make sense? Any suggestions? Your reactions, any suggested changes?
What's the new information? Just staff opinion?
The new updated staff recommendation based on the information shared.
Do you think you have Colin as me?
From the Fed.
Federal.
From the
Saying
Federal Office of Jobs. Thank you, Jen.
we have the
Federal Office of Jobs.
Maybe a search panel.
Does that make sense?
What do you search in there?
Okay. All right, let's take about 5 minutes for discussion, and then we'd just love to hear what your conversations are.
I still want to be sure I am.
Hi.
I want to tell them what we're doing.
So hi folks on the virtually participating. We're setting up so you guys can talk in a way that won't be difficult. So Dawn is going to call in and facilitate your discussion via her phone, and then I'm going to mute the Polycom so that it's easier for you guys to hear each other and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I still would. Yeah. Findings should be listed. Because I know from I do how many things are.
Well, I think I get.
Until Friday.
That there was.
They want to do it.
Maybe just organize for me.
Different than that wider record. Oh, that there were.
Oh,
Right.
probably buried.
So let's just.
No, it's all on the portal. That's all I agree.
You can try to call in as me.
I did have feelings for number two.
I mean, think about it.
So, in June, I don't know if you remember, but in June, when we discussed this the first time, it took the entire time.
I didn't know, especially in an area where.
And what we learned was that it could be completely valid, but they don't have more than 50% evidence to prove it, right?
So I'm gonna, or,
Right.
how is everybody
So,
virtually?
I, as a parent, had that information. The compromise I was willing to make back in June was that the.
Hi, this is Reagan. I am having a hard time hearing whoever's speaking because it sounds like the other microphones around the room maybe are still on, and I'm hearing some of the other conversations.
We're gonna mute now and hopefully.
So.
Okay, go ahead. I'm on. Hello, are people? Hello, can you guys hear me? This is Dawn.
Yes.
Hi, Dawn. Yes, we can hear you. There's still a lot of background noise.
Yeah, I'm actually going to move to the back of the room where I'm hoping that we can make that better. Is this better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. All righty, so what are people's, let's see, is Representative Lively on the phone too?
Yes, I'm still here.
Hi. All right, well, I'll just kind of open it up to you guys and kind of share with me what your thoughts are. Does anybody want to start? Just kind of their thoughts around the updated staff recommendations?
So Dawn, this is Dina Lowry. So are the recommendations are that we not include any unsubstantiated findings on the safety portal, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. That essentially only invalid and valid, or only valid would be placed on the child care safety portal.
And help me to remember, had we previously talked about unable to determine?
That would be based on, like, we don't have that category in child care licensing. So this is only about
only,
yeah.
Only, and then
yeah.
Ours is only our founded, our substantiated. We would, okay, thank you.
Yeah, yep.
What?
So, right.
Go ahead, Dawn.
Well, I was going to ask Reagan, do you have any thoughts or about this recommendation? Does it make sense to you? Do you want me to provide any additional feedback or your thoughts on it?
I think for number one, so should the portal display invalid complaints? I don't think that they should display the invalid complaints. I think that as soon as it goes online, parents start to think that there is something there. And if we trust the work of the, investigators, then, we should trust that they're invalid. Yeah.
And so on number 2 is the one, I think that's what we did come up with at the June meeting. And I think the one that's in question right now is number 2 around the unable to substantiate. So that could be like we get a call and we go out and we're not able to determine if it happened or not. We're not able to determine that it didn't happen, or we're not able to determine that it did happen. So that's kind of the question out there. Yeah.
Say that, Dawn, can you just repeat that last sentence that you just said?
Sure. So an unable to substantiate essentially means that we can't prove that it didn't happen, and we can't prove that it did happen. So that's where an unable to substantiate comes from. And a lot of that we often see in like a he said, she said type of scenario.
So it's not that there's
and-
not any information that would indicate that the incident occurred. It's that you neither could nor couldn't. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
And usually the information that you have is just that you received a complaint, correct?
Right. Correct. And yeah. And so, one thing I think that wasn't necessarily shared on the Jay's report, but when we were on the call with the Federal Office of Child Care, is that many states have chosen not to because there's some risks on unable to substantiate. They felt like, what they only felt comfortable doing valids, and that's where the majority of the states have gone.
So nationally,
And that's
where people are, is just putting valid on their safety portal.
Yeah, there's a few exceptions, but overall, that's definitely been the direction that most states have done, and that's, I think, also really guided us in our recommendation to put back to this group for consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think knowing that definitely makes me lean towards agreeing with the recommendation to not post the unsubstantiated ones.
I agree.
Okay.
Yep, I agree as well.
Okay.
I just was meeting with somebody who has an entire business just helping families navigate finding childcare and specifically navigating the websites that the ELD put out there, the Spark one and the safety portal. And so I definitely think that more information is not necessarily helping these families; it's just confusing them. At least that's what I'm hearing out in the community.
Yeah, no, that's really good input, and it makes me think that it would be really great to talk to that person as we, move forward in making changes, because it sounds like they've got the firsthand intel from families.
That, and she uses your websites daily, and so she has little glitches, like if you fill in all of the fields on the safety portal, no result will come out. She's got all these little things that most people probably don't know because they're not using it 25 times a day.
Right.
So yes, I will connect you with this person.
Okay. That would be great. Great. Well, let's see. Everyone else is still kind of talking. Are there any other talks? Representative Lively, I don't think we heard from you. Are you comfortable with the recommendation as we have it?
Yes, I am. I listened to the conversation, the questions, but it seems to make sense to me based on what we learned nationally and what was just discussed, so I'm comfortable with it too.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and put me on mute on my cell phone that I'm on to talk to you guys, and then we'll unmute the other so you can hear the conversation.
Please enter your audio PIN followed by the pound or hash sign. Pound or hash. Taylor, if you had any suggestions or changes. Stephanie and Bobby, would you mind if you had some suggestions or considerations?
Yeah. So the updated staff recommendation was a bit of a surprise to us because we didn't think that was where we were headed back in June when we were discussing what the options would be and what the considerations were. And I still feel the same now that I did then, and that would be that I would feel comfortable with the thumb option, where it shows that a visit occurred but no valid findings. But I would prefer all of the information.
Prefer all information, okay? And sending to all information, meaning that if a complaint is made and a visit is made, regardless of the finding, you want to know that. That was just to clarify.
Yes, the all would be, it would show the complaint, it would show the visit, it would show that it was unsubstantiated, but that it would all be missed.
So just to clarify, that's the current situation, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And then
satisfied.
But she's satisfied,
Comfortable, yeah.
she's okay with some. She's not okay
I'm just
with
not
none.
okay with none.
Yeah.
Right.
So would that
She has
be
a preference, okay,
Yeah.
no.
and some being the middle ground? or
Well, it
whatever?
would show that the visit occurred, but it wouldn't list what the complaint was. It would just show no findings valid, no valid findings with your middle ground suggestion.
It wouldn't show that way. Okay. All right. Renee.
Can we,
Yeah.
no person joined us. Andrea joined us, so I just want us to acknowledge, have her. say
Hi,
hello.
Andrea. Thanks for getting on. Sorry,
Hi, everyone.
we should have had Chief Moore up there to help. The lights weren't working, Chief.
Can you guys hear me?
Good about getting those things working.
Thank you.
Relax.
Welcome, Andrea. We're just reporting out on question number 2. So,
Okay.
catch you up.
Veronica,
Okay.
Shannon, and Renee.
We decided to brief an updated staff recommendation to trust in that the licensor is doing their visit and, looking into what's happening. Felt that there's, like, some of the suggestions were that it could be complicated. For parents to see all this stuff. Somebody was talking about how it could cause a parent to pass that provider over, just seeing that.
Yeah, and then just also the confusion, like eliminating the confusion that if it was compounded or unable to fit, the parent could feel unworthy or untrusty of like the provider and just skip over to the next because there's some potential things.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Veronica, Shannon, and Renee. Okay. Martha and Chief Moore?
We see both sides. I think everybody does. We're probably, well, this is what, if you put something on and you don't have a result, all it is confusion. So we landed on, if you're not going to give a result, and that result is usually unfounded or unsubstantiated, then don't put anything on. I'm not saying that's the best, but I think our part is, if you put something on and it doesn't have a result, it just creates more confusion for everybody.
So Chief Moore, in essence, you're agreeing with the staff recommendation.
We're agreeing with the staff recommendation unless you're going to put, there was a visit and a result. So it's a qualified agreement.
Okay. If a valid finding, of course, then it's.
Well, yeah, you're either going to list, the staff recommendation is, in some respects, only showing valid complaints. If you're going to show something that doesn't show the result of a complaint, then you might as well not put it on because people are going to go, what happened there? Well, it's just confusing.
Right. Okay.
But we're not saying we're right, we're just.
Sure.
So if you had to choose between nothing, I mean, what staff's recommending, and the current situation where it's on the provider's site, would you talk about which of those two you would choose?
We basically talked about the fact that there's no real 100% good answer as to what's on.
That's really helpful, you guys. Thank you. I agree. I vote for that.
Yeah.
But
the point being, if there's nothing founded, I mean, you go in, you do the investigation, and there's nothing founded. To me, it's like going to court. You go to court and you're found guilty, then bing, 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 bing. If you're not found guilty, you walk out. Done.
Well, there was a good example of a neighbor calling on a provider saying that children were unattended in a tree, climbing in a tree unattended. Well, that provider doesn't have a tree, but it went on their record. So, then it goes on there. You'd think that the investigation would find that, and it was unfounded, but it still went on their record. So, just interesting on that.
Yeah.
And so the case that we talked about in our group to try and figure out where Chief Moore and I are on this is that child care provider had a problem with the parent and said, basically fired the parent, said, look, you need to take your child somewhere else. And then the complaints started to come in, and it was because the parent was upset that she was asked to take her child somewhere else. And so it's making trouble for the child care provider. And then she also had friends who never had children there. Well, Don has to deal with that. Well, I guess Amy now, but they have to deal with it. And it's not a problem with the provider.
Right,
Does
okay.
that help
It does.
determine where we're at?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Stephanie, and then let's go ahead and move to the next group and the whole plan. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I just wanted to quickly remind everybody about in June when we first discussed this. Now, it took us almost the entire time just to understand what unsubstantiated meant, right? Because unsubstantiated does not mean that it's not valid. They gave a lot of examples of unsubstantiated claims that really did happen, but couldn't be officially termed a valid complaint. So I just want to remind people that there's a difference between unfounded and unsubstantiated.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie.
We have that in my world all the time.
Yeah.
We have complaints against an officer. It's he said, she said. I mean, you can't substantiate somebody. When you put it, that's the difficulty.
Sure. Yeah. Great. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Kevin?
So I think we both agree that we see value in posting and unable to substantiate on the portal, with kind of the caveat that if it wasn't posted, that there should be some kind of asterisk or some information as to having missing information.
Yeah, so maybe my philosophical approach on this is, at the end of the day, the question is, the government has information, and then what information do parents have a right to know? And so withholding information seems a little bit paternalistic at times, like the government saying to parents, we know best for you about what you ought to know. Also, I know there's gray areas here, and you can make an argument, how it might hurt a provider or it might hurt a parent not to have information, but I start from a standpoint of a kind of baseball, the tie goes to the runner. Well, here, I feel like we ought to err on the side of disclosure to people, open government, transparency versus not. So if it's close call, I'm generally going to say we should let parents know what's going on. I also have some concerns when it comes to, this is sort of a heavy word, but equitability or equitableness. So if I were a parent, and I am a parent, and my kids are thinking about going to a particular facility, I would want to know this information. And I know that I have the ability to call and kind of do the digging by virtue of my position and, things that I know just because of what I do and education and all that other stuff. But not every parent has that. So it seems like if we're going to say to people, we're not going to tell you this, that impact might fall more heavily on people that don't have those same tools to try and dig within the system to figure out the answers. That doesn't seem right to me. So I feel like we ought to pass along the information, because unable to substantiate is not the same thing as unfounded.
So would you put unfounded on there?
I would.
Did you put everything?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Unable to substantiate. I would put unable to substantiate. Sorry, I misunderstood your question. No. Well, we're not, I guess, really answering that right now.
No,
but I draw
when you talked
distinction.
about, and I understand exactly where you're coming from without being openly transparent.
No, I would not put unfounded on there. Okay. To me, that's an affirmative statement saying this did not happen, versus a statement saying we're not really sure, but there's this complaint out there. So to me, it's easier to say not to disclose this did not happen, because then that can create hysteria.
And I'm, if I may, I think we're both with on that. our concern was putting something on there without a result. That's, and I think that's what there was a visit that, and people go, well, what happened on the visit? That's where we, unless I missed something.
Just to clarify that, if we did post a visit, there would be an additional piece of information that said the result of the visit, but that it would say no valid findings, for example, could be the language that to describe the result. Or if there were findings, valid findings, it would say, it would say valid findings, and then the findings would be listed.
Would it say would it say unsubstantiated?
That's the
That's
potential.
That's the one that I think we were starting at, because it's just gonna.
We're not intending to put the unfounded ones on there at all.
And I'm,
okay?
and I'm good.
That's not right.
And I agree
Okay.
with that. I'm talking about my understanding. I think when we were explaining it is, you're going to post the valid ones. You're not going to post the unfounded ones. And if they're unsubstantiated, you're going to put there was a visit there, but you aren't going to put the result. If you're going to do that, you might as well put the result.
The only clarification is the proposed language of that middle ground would be no valid findings. So if it would say there's no valid findings, but it wouldn't say unable to substantiate.
But I don't know, that could be part of a recommendation if people think that's helpful. I don't know. But
All in the language, like no valid findings, what does that mean to, you ask 10 people on the street, what does that mean? You'll get more than one answer.
What does unsubstantiated?
I know.
That's where the confusing part comes in.
Right.
Let's go ahead and hear from Sue and Eva and talk on the phone and come back. Eva?
I'm gonna let you do it.
All right.
So we like the updated staff recommendation. We thought maybe adding somewhere on the page a clear statement of calls, like, when you are researching child care facilities, that calls about full provider history are welcome and encouraged. Or, I was also thinking of some recent incidences where there was a provider that did get frequent complaints and then ended up being one of the reasons why we are here, unfortunately. Is there a trigger, but then what would that be, and how do you screen out the racist neighbor that thinks that, that wants to accuse a provider of doing things because they are 24 hours in the facility and kids are coming, parents bring a kid. We talked about a trigger, but then as I was thinking about it, I didn't discuss that with you. I was like, but what's that bar? So I think clear statement about, encouraging when you're down to your final decision, you are welcome and encouraged to call for a full history.
Okay. What's on the phone?
Yeah, so, and people on the phone, please chime in. I'll try to do your conversation justice. Is that they actually were fine with the recommendation, the new updated recommendation. And one additional piece of information that I shared with them from our federal call that I think made them go there is that there's really very few, if any, states that are posting anything but valid. If they are, they're posting the visit and not valid, and that kind of made them agree with our recommendation.
Okay. Okay. So it's feeling like we have about half, approximately, in agreement with the new recommendation, maybe adding some additional language about calls are welcome. And then we have some others that really see some value in posting unsubstantiated. Prefer all the information, however, could live with some information showing that there was a visit but no valid finding. So reflections just on what you're hearing, just even based on this conversation that we've had, have you shifted or are you thinking of it in a different way?
I like the addition of some comments.
I'm Eva, sorry.
Eva was talking about that, here's the opportunity.
Adding that. Yep.
To clarify.
Bear in mind that I heard
in June. And it goes with Kevin's principle. So, pattern of complaints, and they weren't substantiated. And then something happened to my child. I'd be damn mad that the state knew that there had been this pattern of complaints, and all they told me was so that comment from me stayed with me. Like, I have a right to know there's a pattern, even if they're not. The ponderance of evidence. I mean, the point that Stephanie makes, it doesn't mean you didn't have it. Unable to substantiate doesn't mean that's true. All it means is you just hit that over 50%. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't mean that it doesn't clear, it makes clear that something didn't happen. It can also mean that nothing happened, like it's a tree where there is no tree that was listed as unable to substantiate. I don't know how you.
Well, that sounds valid, right?
Right. It was listed as unable to substantiate.
Wasn't that a separate issue?
Yeah, I think that's a different issue.
Yes, and you have parents that call and they get through the screening process. They call about garbage cans, not being because they don't like the provider, they don't like their neighbor, they're all around jerks. And sure, they're taking care of kids, and we're asking providers to meet a level of, a high level of training, of proof of being responsible. They go through licensing. They have, compliance people. If they're part of the food program person coming. If they're part of a library program, library person coming. They have people that are frequenting their house. And if a parent feels uneasy, they should go with that unease. All the Office of Child Care, and we should be doing our best to encourage and have availability for these call lines that meet hours that parents are available. Nowhere else do we expect people to have a complaint follow them. If you are driving down the road, at Martha's point, if you're driving down the road and you get pulled over, if you don't get a ticket, that doesn't get sent to your insurance company because you get dinged. You don't get told that you can't drive anymore because you got pulled over one time without a ticket. How is it fair to have something that was not able to be substantiated listed on a record when there's not enough proof?
And just one thing, from my investigative experience, we would look at trends with unable to substantiate. So dealing with a very vulnerable population like ultra young kids, I think you're going to run into the situation a lot more than you would with as opposed to if we're dealing with adults to talk to and can show evidence that something happened. And so I think I see value in this, in that we're going to be able to you're going to be able to see trends and we have the where there's smoke there's fire kind of thing. And so I see the value in having some kind of unable to substantiate finding that shows on
so that a parent
can make decisions. I think there's you're dealing with a population where we're gonna have more of these findings than maybe we would with adults.
I think parents are already fearful that there is no safe place for their kids. I mean, there was a Salem Citizen Journal article where a mother actually said that she'd been searching and she couldn't find a place that she thought was going to be safe enough for her kid. And that was heartache. Yeah, it's difficult to leave your kids with strangers. And then if you have every single complaint listed, whether it's valid, invalid, unable to substantiate, you're feeding that doubt, and it makes I just don't see how unless there are multiple, and then we have rules. I'm pretty sure back in rulemaking way back when we had a rule that we worked on that addressed repeated where there's smoke there's fire issue.
We got it.
that we're talking about graduated at some day in the future, we may have graduated,
The progressive enforcement tools.
but we don't have
remember
it yet.
there being something that we provided comment on and discussed way back when.
Let's
never cut
we'll
off.
figure that out. Let me just ask a kind of information. So currently, when a complaint is listed on the provider's page, what does it say?
If it's unable to substantiate.
But does it say what it was?
No, that was a question. You're asking what's listed on the provider page for an unable to substantiate finding?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes. Complaint. Finding, able to substantiate. Finding, date it happened, date correction due. Allegation description. A child's diapers are not being changed as needed. Rules. According to OAR 414 blah blah, the provider must, provide the rule. Field observations. During my visit, you stated that the children's diapers are always changed as needed. You indicated you purchased a diaper changing station to ensure the diaper changing needs are always met. That's one example of unable to substantiate on the portal.
That's a lot of detail. So if a parent really wanted to figure out, so is it a diaper or is it falling out of a tree, they would have that information online.
That was the point that I made in June, which is why I prefer all, because as a parent, when I'm looking for a place for her, if I can read what the complaints are that are unable to substantiate, and there are a bunch of obvious little stupid things, I'm going to disregard them because I'm a reasonable person. And I'm just going to be looking for things that are serious red flags to me.
Yeah, Veronica.
I have a different feeling, Stephanie, because I feel like it would trigger certain things, like if you have had a bad experience with another provider with a change in diaper. So anything that's diaper related, I'll probably disregard that. And yes, it is a responsibility of the parent to go find, if you have A, B, and C, and you need to go shop for A, B, and C, you need to go look. But I feel like a lot of parents would just be like, next, and then you go into the thing about, well, I don't have a lot of infant providers, and none of them work. So, I see your point. I think there is scope of a lot of parents, and some will take it this way, and some the other way.
To your point, though, the same example, my daughter, for example, has extremely sensitive skin, so she does have to have her diaper changed more often than is legally required. If I see a provider on there that has multiple complaints about diapers not being changed often enough, that's probably not the right place for my child. And I feel that that's good information for me to have.
Even if it's not true?
Is it not true? If it was invalid, it wouldn't be on there.
Well, if it's substantiated, it's not a yes or no.
Right. And if there was one, then I would not disregard them, like as a possible daycare. But if there's a pattern of the same complaint over and over again, even if it's, how do you substantiate whether the diapers are being changed often enough? So, in that example, if the same complaint's happening over and over and over again, that's the pattern I would want to be able to.
Yeah, so Chief Moore and I, again, say that there's no right. There's no 100% on this. We're going to have to make a decision and then go from there. The question I have, one question, one statement. We put this rule into effect, or we put this into effect. Is there a timetable that we can come back and look at it again and say, this is working or this is not working, we need to add more, we need to take more out. I think that's probably critical because we don't know. We're trying to throw darts at a board and the board may be moving. The statement I have is that if we've got somebody, for example, even when you said the tree didn't even exist, there may be a training issue that needs to be handled in how you say unsubstantiated, unfounded, or there's a real big problem.
My sense is the group is not in consensus, and I wonder, and it seems to me at the heart of what the government asked. I wonder about somebody that really great writing synthesizing this conversation and sending it to a group that looked hard and worked hard at it, surfaced this as the issue in your language. There's not a right answer on this, but there's going to have to be a judgment made. Parents are going to have access to the information that unsubstantiated, some or all, and how about that in the council? I mean, it's at the heart of the charge.
Christmas.
Yeah.
So I defer to Sue and staff, Jay, Amy, Dawn.
I defer to the committee. I mean, what do you all think about that? Or do you feel like there's a chance that people could come to an agreement on something they could live with?
The middle ground-ish.
I don't know.
In the middle.
Or not.
I think I've heard a lot of support for the middle ground, at least not the middle ground by Jay. And I think we may well end up where Bobby was suggesting, is that basically there were two strong recommendations coming out on. I do think we should do some kind of check back to see who's on which side of this, the current show everything or the staff recommendation.
My question for legal, so let's say you don't show diapers, whatever, and there is a pattern of 3 or 4, and it still hasn't been caught, whatever. I think eventually it get caught, but that if you show a pattern, whatever happens, and it comes to it, they are found, it is founded and valid. Even if it was something to where it caused harm to a child, if it's not shown on parents' portal, and the parents come back and sue child care because there were visits, but it's not shown on the website. They knew sort of about this. There was no founded, but now there is. I guess that's
good question.
We had that same question.
Oh. Which could probably answer the question, but I don't know.
I can't provide legal advice.
Well, I can. The answer is you can always sue. Question is what happens next. Exactly. So,
child care limits.
It would be a disaster of like a PR disaster to say that the government yet again withheld this information, and then you have the parents saying why they're mad. I mean, it would be a parade of horribles. But
is there a middle ground that we can come to that shows it's fair? There is the one where it shows something, they had a visit, and maybe not show the second part, but then have a statement saying you can go and.
A suggestion.
That's
the middle ground suggestion.
Sort of, maybe what you investigated and Stephanie, what you had proposed is have some information, which is showing that a visit occurred.
And there was no valid.
basically to the parent, here's what you're seeing, here's what you're not seeing, right? So that people know what they're not seeing. Like, that's what we're showing you, but we're actually holding some things back. We're not showing you a whole bunch of other things. want that, call this number.
Right. I think your suggestion of having an encouragement to call for more information is fantastic. But if I don't know that visits and complaints are happening, I don't know that I need to call. So there's a lot of visits happening, but there's no information other than no valid findings. That would be my trigger to call.
Okay. I think that's why I think that we're clear, like if, when you are looking at a child care provider and you want to know their full history, because we're not going to use it to have the statement, so that, if it is I'm not comfortable with having. Jay, can you share the middle ground one more time that you had proposed? I just want to compare it to what Stephanie said.
Yes, I mean, it's just one of many options, right?
Okay,
It's just that a complaint visit occurred, no valid findings, and then we have a compliance, you can call it for compliance history, so you could certainly call this number for more details.
Right.
It would not list what the complaint was.
It would, yes, I mean, you can decide whatever you want.
Not one of the options we're talking about.
That's what you were suggesting, Stephanie. Let me just add it. Okay, not listed. Okay.
Could I maybe try to put that in a different way? That might, just correct me if I'm wrong though, it's essentially having on there what is on there now, but not saying unable to substantiate.
No,
giving what the complaint is potentially, but just saying no valid findings.
that would be another option, right? I mean, the thing that I just mentioned.
We have 4 options. I just thought that's what I was trying to,
No,
that's what Stephanie was saying.
If you're going to put what the complaint is, you might as well put all of it. I am saying the middle ground is that you don't list what the complaint was. You just list that there was a complaint visit and there are no valid findings. That way the parent has to call for more information if they want to know what that is. But since there were no valid findings, then they could also assume that it was not that they don't need to.
All right, thank you. I misunderstood you.
Let's do a check on that. Folks on the phone as well would like to test with you. Where are you at? Would you vote in support? Maybe we need a 6 by 5 because that gives us clarity. Member 5 is I'm in full support. 3 is I can live with it. 2 is no, and 3 is absolute, 0, 6 is absolutely not. Let's just do a show of hands for one of the middle ground options, which is the portal would show that a complaint visit happened. It would state that there was no valid findings or no findings.
No valid
Findings, and it would not list the complaint. Let's just do a quick test.
And it would have the statement about
And it
the
would
call.
have the statement you can call.
Right.
Please, calls about provider history, welcome, encourage, something along those lines.
Can I ask one question before you vote?
Yeah.
For staff, what's easier, putting all the information on the portal or answering a bunch of phone calls?
I would say as a parent,
Great.
so this is Reagan with Family Forward, it would kind of frustrate me if I had to feel like I had to do follow-up calls for everything. I think a lot of the problem is the language that's being used. So I'm currently looking at a provider on the safety portal right now. And we just use such different language in the compliance visits versus the non-compliance versus complaints. And maybe there could be something a little bit more consistent throughout if we did want to continue to keep complaints on there. I also see that you have a complaint up, but because then there's another one that was 5 years old and it just says complaint and it has no information at all. And so I don't know, it just seems like a lot of this, instead of how much information to provide and not provide, it's more about the fact that we're using extremely confusing language.
Reagan, do you have a suggestion to the proposed middle ground option that's on the table regarding?
Well, first of all, I would more, and I don't know if this is possible, but I would break out the website or these lists really different, like renewal visits, and then you would click that tab and go in and look at all of them. Compliance, non-compliances, and you click that tab and you'd open all of them. Same thing with unsubstantiated complaints. So you would basically, say complaints, and then you would be able to, on that next page that you went to, explain what it means in real language. Right. It's so legal. This website is very legal.
I know. So we know user-friendly has been a major issue. Regardless of how it's shown, I think we're really looking at what is shown. So that what's on the table right now is this middle ground concept that when there is a complaint, that it would show online that there was a visit that occurred, no valid findings, and it would not list the complaint. If the complaint's made, it would not, and it was found, a visit was done, there was no valid finding, and the complaint was not described on the website. That's really our question right now. And I'd like first to come back to that test, the vote test. Again, 5 in full support, 5 not in support, 3 I can live with it, but I'm not super happy about it.
And then I think we need to come back and let us vote on one and all or nothing.
Yes, if we
so
cannot.
We really get a sense of who would really prefer not a middle ground, but one or the other.
So let's first vote on if we can come to agreement on a middle ground. If we cannot come to an agreement on a middle ground, we're going to take an assessment, a number of who's in support of the staff recommendation and who's on the complete opposite side of full information. Does that make sense? Okay, because we do need to move forward. Folks on the phone and folks in the room, for the middle ground option of a complaint made, a visit occurs, there's no valid findings, and there will not be a description of the complaint on the website. Can you show a hand of where you are? 5 in full support, 3 I can live with it, 0 is folks on the phone. Okay, Renee, 3. Folks on the phone, can you share where you are?
No changing your vote.
Oh, okay. No changing. Folks on the phone, can you verbally share if you are, what number you are? 5, 4, 3, 2, 0.
4.
4?
I'm not sure which is which, sorry. So I'm having a hard time. If I saw that there was a complaint listed on the website and there was no description, that would be frustrating. So I'm in the all or nothing camp. Does that make sense? And not the middle ground, the way you guys have described the middle ground. I think that there's other middle grounds that would work, but not what has been described, either asking people to call or to just not provide information. I think both of those is putting too much onus on the parent.
Reagan, are you a 0 then? You are not.
I guess I'm a 0, yeah.
Okay, go ahead. 1.
I'd go from a 0 to a 5 if you showed what the complaint was.
If you showed what the complaint was.
Oh, yeah, option 4.
Option
There's really 4 options on the table.
We've got 0s on the table, so this is a no vote anyway, so we will not go forward with that. Let's do one more on that one. If there is a complaint made, that's the full information now.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I'm just talking about, I'm not putting unfounded ones on there.
Mm-hmm. Right, not unfounded.
But they're not on now anyway.
That's not part of the. Chief, are you saying put the allegation on? So
you put the allegation on and it wasn't sustained. I mean, you're almost there anyway. All you're not putting down is what the allegation was.
Well,
I think that is.
That's everything.
Not showing, I think.
Well, when you say everything, you don't mean everything. You mean.
We're talking just about unsubstantiated.
Yeah, but you're already showing there was a complaint and it was not substantiated and something else. You might as well put what the complaint was.
That's all. Let's vote on
all or nothing.
Heidi. Let's see where we end up.
All right, so let's do a quick vote on the staff recommendation.
Okay.
Which is to not put unsubstantiated complaints or visits on the website. Can we just do a quick test on where you are? I would like a number on this so we can report in what goes forward in the council.
So who's tracking the voting?
Staff recommendation again is.
No, I mean.
Shall not display a complaint.
The staff recommendation is the portal shall not display that a complaint visit occurred if the allegations were found unable to substantiate. And unable to substantiate findings would not be displayed as part of complaint visits and valid findings.
And that's different from unfounded.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Thank you. Yes, that's great. Okay, in full support, 5, all the way down to 0. Okay.
Can you announce a count so I can take it down? Heidi,
Okay,
count.
so folks in the room, anything above a 3, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 a 4 or a 5. Look from the room, can you count, and let me do a fifth count.
Yeah.
Put your hands down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 fifths in the room. Folks on the phone, if you're a 3 or above, a 3, 4, or 5, can you let me know? Folks on the phone, if you're below a 3, a fifth, in disagreement with the staff recommendation, can you let me know?
I just do a roll call.
Yeah, roll call.
Andrea, you were a fifth, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
I saw her. Who else is on the phone? Let's roll this through.
Dina.
Dina?
I'm at a 3.
3?
This is Reagan. I'm at a 3. I don't think I like any of the options that are being presented.
Representative Lively?
I'm 3 and above.
3 and above.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that all?
I think that's it.
Do we need to do a vote recommendation on the other, or is it sort of the opposite?
I assume it's the opposite.
Kind of, the vote kind of is what it is.
It is what it is.
Okay.
So what are the numbers?
So
That is the phone.
we have 8 fifths in total, and then 3 and above is the other category, correct?
Yes.
Okay, we have 7 3 and above. 8 fifths, 7 3 and above.
Okay, so the suggestion on the table to you is to move this forward to the council with that information. Just want to check in with you if, do we have an alternative?
So it seems like you ought to vote the other one. I mean, we're assuming the converse would be true, but well, we voted this many times.
Want to do one more? It's fun.
I mean, I think different people might have different reasons why they voted no, but I'm just guessing.
Okay. So the first was we just voted on the staff recommendation. The reverse of that is to show, can you help me with the language?
Everything.
Keep it as it is.
Keep it as it is, thank you.
Still not showing invalid complaint, but it would show the unable to substantiate complaint.
Correct.
And what the complaint was.
Yes.
What the complaint was, a visit occurred,
All the
and was
information.
unable to substantiate. Those 3 things.
Do you want me to read that again?
Okay. All right. So folks on the phone, we're going to do one more vote, which is to show, to keep it as it is, to continue with the current process that when a complaint's made, we show what the complaint is, that a visit occurred, and it was unable to substantiate. Let's do a vote in the room. Everyone, if you can just go ahead and hold up where you are. The folks on the phone will do a roll call as well. So we have 2 fifths in the room, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 3 and above, with 2 3s, 2 3s, and 4 4s and 5. Okay, folks on the phone, let's do a roll call. Dina?
4.
Reagan?
3.
Representative Lively?
3.
And Andrea.
Andrea, thank you.
Oh, can you guys see me? I thought you guys could see me raising my hand.
What do you have, a 5? It's hard to see. 5?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Kevin, it was good to be took that
It is.
Yeah.
You're right. We can't,
It's not
couldn't assume the.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because of the trees. I mean, people can.
So, in a consensus vote, if we have anybody under at a fifth vote, we don't move forward with consensus. And so what we are sending forward is the recognition that we don't have a consensus. So just want to acknowledge that. We will send this information with the discussion points to the early learning council.
Heidi, are you giving the vote count, or are you, okay.
Yes. Yes. Definitely have the vote count.
That's a definite yes. All right.
It's the core question that the governor can see this.
It is the core question, and we know where she stands.
Oh, I don't. So that's good.
Well, no, I mean just in general, right?
So we're a little over time.
I actually got, Dina let me know that she has to, something she has to attend to at 4:30. Okay.
So I'm wondering if we could briefly move to the child abuse one.
Okay. And then we'll break it for
And then we'll break it for
take
Thursday.
about a 10-minute break. Okay, you all ready, able to hang in a little bit longer?
All right. Yeah, we're
Okay,
on a
so
roll.
this next one is number 7 and 8, the child fatalities. This was our August discussion.
Oh,
And
child abuse.
child abuse.
You just said child fatality.
I did, you're right. Child abuse.
Well, you want to go to 9, you mean?
Yeah, because Dina has to leave and she has to leave at
Okay.
4:30. So we're going to flip the agenda just so we can have her
We'll come back
participation
to
during that.
Just information.
Okay.
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 Good information.
Right. So if you recall, so this was our September conversation
Yeah.
where we discussed what information regarding incidences of substantiated child abuse and neglect in child care settings should be made available in the portal and on the website. And this committee had recommended that staff go back to DHS and would have requested if this information is to be posted, you wanted to ensure there was a short summary describing the circumstances.
Well, technically, I think the language from the group was just more context. Like, we need more. Yeah.
Yeah.
More context.
Which is reflected in the discussion that's about.
Yeah.
Staff, you went back to DHS and great news, they agreed that was something they could provide.
Yes, they needed to check. I'll turn it over now to Otis and and Child Welfare, but they needed to go back to their attorney. But both Child Welfare and Otis, just as an FYI to the committee, Child Welfare is currently doing child care investigations of abuse in child care facilities. That will be transferred to Otis sometime next year. So that's why both of these groups of DHS are being involved. Both thought that they, were enthusiastic about helping, and both are reaching out to their counsel. So I pass it off to Otis and Child Welfare to talk about what they know.
So we're going to be providing notification upon receipt of a complaint. We're going to be providing notification on the outcome of the complaint and the redacted findings. And so we're vetting our legal counsel right now as to what of our findings. So we're going to be providing all the information, but what of that information we can mitigate risk by allowing to be posted. So right now our counsel's looking at that, and we're just waiting for them to give us what that looks like.
Can Dina also share?
Okay.
It is similar to, I believe, was that Adam that was talking? Similar to Adam, that we are committed to providing the information. The question is, how detailed can we be and at what point? Certainly we need to ensure due process, and so we will publicly post and provide that information. It's just how much is still the question. It's being vetted by DOJ.
Questions or clarifications for others?
Adam, are you saying still some information, but you can't tell us what it will be until you get the legal advice on what it is?
Yeah. So we don't know yet to what extent it can be. As far as we have to abide by public records release and confidentiality laws. So we have to have our legal counsel go over that information before we can say this is the list of stuff that out of what we give you, this stuff we're okay with you moving on.
But there'll be something.
Should be, yeah.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess, and I know we covered this, I'm just not remembering what. If a provider's been substantiated for abuse or an incident of abuse, does the provider shut down, or is it just removing the person if the provider is not also, like if the provider didn't know as the employer something was happening and that person was let go, then that's like, I'm just trying to remember. Never mind, I've worked through it in my head. Not great.
Any other questions or clarifications regarding what Otis and Dina have shared and what DHS is able to do and agreed to do per your recommendation at our last meeting?
So it sounds as if DHS has responded positively to what we asked for. And I just want to thank DHS for their openness in that. And granted, we don't know what the short summary is going to entail, but we have a commitment from them that there's going to be something, some context provided. So I just want to say thank you for that openness. So my perspective is it's the staff recommendation that we want to vote on.
So the updated staff recommendation that incorporates what your request was and what DHS has agreed to for our last conversation, okay? So let's go ahead and do a vote, another 5 by 5. Yep. Again, 5 in full agreement. So let's go ahead and do a show in the room, and then we'll do a roll call for folks on the phone. So where are you at with the updated staff recommendation? Okay, we've got all 5 in the room.
Yeah, 4.
4-ish. Okay.
How many 5?
4.5, 4.9.
Should you count the 5 numbers?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Did I get that right? We have 11 folks. I think so.
11 5s
and 1 4. No.
Kevin, Dia Barton, did you have a? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just got tired.
Okay.
With 12 voting members in the room. Okay. Folks on the phone.
Andrea had a 5.
Andrea had a 5. Reagan?
5.
Representative Lively?
5.
Dina?
I'm at a 5 also.
Great. All right.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Shall we let's take a 10-minute break. We'll come back. We have one small affirmation to make, and then we're going to look at this collectively as a whole and consider any additional pieces you'd like to move forward with your recommendations here. Okay, what time are we at? We are at 4:29, so let's be back ready to go at 4:40 so we can send it home. Yeah, send this baby home. Yeah. And there was a little note, I don't know that.
Jay, a couple places that it'll remain in the portal for the length of time that the Office of Child Care must retain all records.
There are public records at 30 years. Our public records rules are 30 years.
So you retain it, but you don't have to have it on the portal.
They've been unlimited to date. So that's the standard process. It's been on forever. We didn't vote on anything as far as length, so that's the default. That would be what we get.
Okay, because I thought we had talked about 3 to 5 years.
That's for not child abuse.
Okay, so child abuse and
fatality.
Fatalities are on the line.
That's what they are now.
And we haven't
Technically not
suggested any changes.
right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Remember that provider on this last recommendation.
No, I don't think I made it for that, but are you there right now? Are you there at the meeting room? Okay, where are you at? Can you, because I can't see you. Are you? Oh,
ahead and come back together. So we are jumping back to our August recommendations. We had agreement in our August recommendation. We just had a couple adjustments that we wanted to return back to vote on today. One of the recommendations or requests that you all had was that we would include language that is barring any extenuating circumstances. I think that we were using, I was using the word wiggle room. We just wanted to have something in there that gave a little bit of extra wiggle room, the hiding language. And so just wanted to come back. I also just want to acknowledge in August, Chief Moore and DA Barton. I wanted to say Dean.
I've been called many things.
Have you?
Yes.
Have you? DA
Not
Barton.
Dean.
Just did some checking with their colleagues and brought back affirming information as to this recommendation. So just wanted to do a quick vote by 5 on this new updated, we're looking at the updated staff recommendation on page 6. And it just incorporates the language, barring any circumstances that were a reflection of what you requested. Questions or clarifications?
Thank you, Chief and DA, for making this easy, I think.
Easy. Easy.
Yeah. Already
Moving forward.
So let's go ahead and do a vote just to have that final formalization of where we stand on this updated recommendation on page 6. Again, vote 5 is in full agreement. A 5th is I am not in agreement. So let's just do a quick look in the room. We've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 5. And we've lost, and Veronica has a name for a child.
So she actually gave me a vote.
Okay.
Andrea's a 5, I can see that.
Andrea, we've got your 5, thank you.
Veronica said 5.
Veronica said 5. Reagan?
5.
Representative Lively?
5.
Okay. Anybody else?
Is Dina still on?
Gone.
Oh, she's gone? Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you, everyone. So this comes to really our final reflection on the collective recommendations you're sending forward to the Early Learning Council. Would you like to have just 2 minutes to review each month, just quietly on your own, to make sure you know what we're looking at? Would that be helpful to you, just a couple minutes?
It's not the notes, it's just the 1, 2, 3. Right.
Right, it's looking at each month and looking at the committee recommendation, really what's moving forward. The committee recommendation is what will move forward to the Early Learning Council.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if it would probably be helpful to refresh your memory. The discussion and rationale are there for you as well to consider as you're in relation to the committee recommendation, right? So,
right. Kind of information here to remind you.
Yeah.
For those of us who have a hard time remembering back to June. and come back together. Before we do a final 6-by-5 vote on sending forward the recommendations to the Early Learning Council, that will incorporate the discussion we had earlier on the previous recommendations. Just would like to hear your reflections on what you see here. And if there's any considerations you want to make sure are included as part of the dialogue that the Early Learning Council has. Any reflections on what you see here? What are you appreciating what you see? And is there any consideration you just want to make sure is incorporated?
I think somebody was talking about it earlier, but group 5, that we make sure to folks really let people know that it should be made available somewhere on the ELD website, should be an understandable format that can be readily distinguished by parents. So I guess it's not determined how that's going to happen and how that's going to look, so but we really make sure that is.
Yeah, and that's been a theme every month, every meeting we've had. So thanks for making sure that's there. Well, appreciating what's here, and you want to make sure it's part of the considerations and dialogue going forward.
I would add to what Shannon said, is the two things that I've heard consistently are that accessibility to Pampered, Reagan today, said clearly about language. That so there's defined, there's legal language that maybe division has to use, but it doesn't communicate. And so that should be addressed. And the other that has been just permeating is usability testing, which is not what, so I don't know how to distinguish it, but we're talking focus groups, but you wouldn't get site usability from a focus group. Focus group might deepen our understanding of what parents are and what they understand and what they don't about the concept. But set a pretty high bar for what we want this site to be able to do. And there is this recommendation that people by type of care can find things, but that it's all there and that it's around. Those are expensive. Those are expensive website kind of activities. And so I guess because we've got it in the recommendations, we keep saying somewhere states should find the money to make this investment in this portal so it's easier, and that should be ability testing, which I think is the only way to know whether the site is functioning as you. So I don't know. Because we put it in our recommendations, so I think we have a responsibility to also say we know that means investment.
I don't know if it's what you look for, but I'd like to thank staff because they came back summer recommendation. If they hadn't done that, we'd be here for 2 more years.
And I promised the chief a short ad hoc, not a long one.
No, they actually did a great job, and they narrowed the issues down, so thank you. Did a good job.
Right. And that was your great idea at the first meeting. So
Well, I've been through these before.
A veteran.
I guess the other piece to do is by saying it's a fine line, and if we're going to bring this to the council, with the quality and fairness of it, yes, we want some of those things known to parents, but I don't know how you say that or express that. Just think about the fairness of it, and there's different sides to it when you're making.
Anything you'd like to add or explain?
of what you hear in the recommendations and any considerations you want to make sure are incorporated in the conversation going forward. Anyone else in the room? Well, first, actually, It'll come back. It'll come back. We've got okay. All right, let's go ahead and move into vote for moving forward the recommendations here and incorporating what was discussed today and your considerations to be carried forward in the dialogue that happens with the council. Approval, a consensus vote to move forward these recommendations. Let's see a vote of the hands on the final 5 by 5.
Okay, Heidi, how do you want to handle that?
The recommendation is that council makes the decision.
Yes, thank you. Okay. The recommendation is council makes the decisions. We'll give them the number of our votes. Yes. Okay. Vote 6 by 5. 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got 10 5s in the room. And folks on the phone. Andrea, you've got a 5. Reagan?
5.
Representative Lively?
5.
Part of which is either of how we support parents, providers, children, largely, and because we have a system that does, fit. Helps us a lot for things. But I think, what are the additional things that we can do to support parents in knowing how to find a place that works for their kids' needs, the hours that they work, and so that it isn't just about making a bunch of phone calls, because that is frustrating as somebody who's been through it, trying to figure out where you're putting your kids and where they're safe. And then how are we best providing the support for licensing specialists who might have, as we all interpret these differently as we're looking at it, and licensing specialists and then providers, how are we making it not, how are we removing barriers to make sure that they're getting the support that they need to meet the expectations that we all have and provide the safe loving care that we want to.
The whole system. Yeah, the whole system up there.
Sorry, we can't tackle that in this group.
We'll leave it to you. We've got it, the count and the work with the count. So if we can hear closing reflections or closing thoughts from you and next steps, and then let's just do a real brief evaluation and reflection on this process.
Okay, great. Wow, we did it. Woo! And even did it faster than allowed for on the agenda. So thank you. Thanks to each of you for the time you've committed, the thoughtful comments you've made, and the thoughtful approach you've taken. One thing I really love about this committee is that we've had so many different perspectives represented, and that was certainly the governor's direction when she sent her letter to Miriam and myself saying, please form a committee. And it was really because we had the various perspectives and voices here that I think we've come up with some really solid recommendations to take to the council for discussion, ultimate approval. I'll second what the chief said about thanking staff, and I know there are backup staff who aren't here, but also provided support for this, and our tech staff, not to be forgotten, the back, who've been supporting this and making sure people could join us remotely. I was in a meeting with the governor recently and told her that this committee was about ready to wrap up. She is very excited to see what our recommendations are. As you know, this is early childhood is a high priority for her in general, and child care is certainly a very high priority within our realm. So excited to know that we've had a lot of voice and are going to be bringing some recommendations basically through the council to her. So that, I think, will be a really important rollout of this. Last I heard, the recommendations will be coming to the council in January. So we'll certainly let everybody on the committee know when that is on the agenda in case you want to join us or tune in or whatever. But I'm very excited about the recommendations. We're simply leaving staff with a lot to do to follow up on these, so we know this committee's work may be done, but we know that Amy, Jay, Angela are going to be moving forward with this. I think the part that was added about the technology considerations is really valuable because, as Bobby has pointed out at multiple meetings, basically every time we ask for something to be clarified, expanded on, changed on the portal or the website, we know that it's easier for us to suggest and request than actually. So thank you for adding that piece to our consideration. So well done, and it's exciting to move forward. And now you have your second, third Wednesday afternoons, whatever this is. This Tuesday? Third Tuesday afternoons free after this, just in time for the holidays.
So let's just go ahead and wrap up with just a brief evaluation, a reflective evaluation of this process that we've been through together these last 6 months. I'd love to hear from you, what was valuable to you? What did you value about this process that you've been a part of? The different ways. The different ways, yeah.
I had the parent voices. They're the hardest to pull in policy conversations, and I just very people.
Providers as well, yes.
Oh, it's not as hard to get providers into meetings as it is, but I totally agree with you. So, yes, please add that. Yeah. But it's just getting policy.
Good work.
I enjoyed it. I don't know. What other parents probably
She told me she's up for any time.
Boy, that's great.
Button for punishment.
What county do you live in?
Watch out.
Yeah, and I also value having the online process. I appreciate it. Even though it's nice to be here, it's time for this.
Okay. I think we already said it informally, but for the board, having the staff recommendations is a place to start the discussion.
Just on the phone, what did you find valuable about this process?
For me, it was getting to be a part of this committee and gaining experience, and also just kind of getting like an inside look of how it really is, because I'm only on the outside, but I got to be brought into this situation, and I can carry on all this experience and knowledge to other parents.
Great. Thank you, Andrea.
Well, I want to tag on to Andrea. She just told me on the phone a minute ago that she's been elected by her son's school to be their representative on the Head Start Policy Council.
Great.
So, go Andrea.
Awesome.
Yes.
Any other things you found out for Renee?
It was my first time, and so it just kind of let me know what happens before I get those letters from them.
be happy to come back again? Okay, we're taking note of that.
Yay.
Thank you.
And
Same here.
Andrea, thank you.
Any other thing you'd like to share about what you found valuable about this process?
That we met late enough in the day that people who find it really hard to go to meetings maybe found it a little bit easier to be at the end of the day.
Got something to add. So I found it valuable to see that most of our time was spent in a very small area where it's kind of the gray, but we tended to agree, as evidenced by that final vote, on a lot of the big picture issues. It's just the areas we disagree are just kind of shades of gray this way or that way. Everyone trying to do the right thing for whatever constituency maybe they come from or are thinking about, but almost reaffirming that you can still get a group of people together in our society and generally agree on most things, despite what you see in the national news. I always like that.
Is there any suggestion you would have for improving this process? Areas of improvement you'd like to offer up?
Perhaps maybe a different location.
Giving you a hard time. You tease because you love, right? That's what people told me.
We were very lucky that Heidi was able to put us on her schedule, Kevin. And to twist her
You know I'm
arm
totally
to do
joking,
this.
right?
I do.
All right, good.
Yes, on the phone.
I just said maybe a different location, somewhere closer to Portland.
Yeah, a different location, yeah.
On the other way.
Yeah, right.
Get through that Wilsonville part.
Yeah, right.
You're so right. That's such a nightmare.
Any other suggestions or offerings for improvement, or things that would make it easier for you and your colleagues to, again, yes?
Yeah, it's the bill idea that I bringing up. I did have a legislator that put in a draft for it, but it's back too late. Making serving on boards, commissions, and government committees like this a civic duty, much like jury duty, so that employers are compelled to give employees time off, so we can have more parent voices and more people who aren't paid to.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Any other offerings you'd like to offer up for suggestions for these types of processes to continue?
Come on, Kevin. I can see the wheels turning. I'm like, I know he's got an answer.
Yes, that's Andrea. Okay, you can see us. That's what I'm like. All right. I just want to acknowledge, and let's flip back to what you really value about this process and what we heard. We really were lucky, and I'm eliminating the word lucky from my vocabulary because I believe in intention. We were intentional and very fortunate to have the diverse perspectives on this committee, especially you parents and you providers, who I know is hard to get here in the lives that you're living, working, parenting, childcare providing. Really value that we did have this online option so we could capture voices from around the state, and just want to give a really big hats off to the staff. Let's give a really great. And team all in the back, still working on all of this. Thank you all for your contribution of your time, your expertise, and your ability and willingness to dive deep into the weeds and to bring forward a really thoughtful product and recommendations to the early learning council. So with that, Chair Sue.
I think we are ready to adjourn. And thank you all again.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. And Heidi.
Thank you, everybody on the phone. I'll be emailing at some point, I'm sure. Have a good night, everybody.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Fun to work with you on
Yeah, it
this.
was. You know, you gotta find the fun where you can, right?
That's right.